Gauge is probably the most important part, or at least one of the most important parts of crocheting a garment. Checking your gauge is key to getting a great fit and knowing several things when it comes to crocheting clothing. And yet, it's a topic I get asked questions about all the time. It seems to be something that is simple yet kind of hard to understand. So, today I'm going to take you along with me as I check gauge from start to finish. Hi, my name is Michelle Ferguson. I'm the crochet pattern designer of Two Brothers Blankets. I want to show you how I check gauge from the very beginning, whether I'm working someone else's patterns or I am starting a design on my own. So first, let's talk about what gauge is. Gauge is when you work up a swatch, usually just a rectangle or a square, and you measure the number of stitches within a measurement. A lot of times you'll see 4 inches or 5 inches, sometimes 2 inches as the measurement. But it'll tell you a number of stitches. If you're looking at a pattern, it'll tell you the number of stitches within 4 inches and the number of rows within 4 inches, or whatever that measurement is. And ultimately, that's going to be able to tell you how many stitches per inch you have. And that's going to determine the number of stitches and the size of the garment. So if you have too many stitches or too few stitches within that measurement, it's not going to match with the designer, and the sizing is not going to match with the pattern and the number of stitches that it tells you to use. So that is why you want gauge to match. And how you do that is by using the hook size that gives you that number of stitches in the 4 inches. So it may not be the same as the designer's, but it's the hook size that gives you that number of stitches within that measurement. So as you'll see in my demonstration, I don't reach gauge at first, and I have to go up in a hook size because I have too many stitches within my 4 inches. I have more stitches than I need to, so I go up a hook size. So the key is, if you have too many stitches within your measurement, you go up a hook size. If you have too few, you go down a hook size so that you can fit more into that measurement. Same with the rows. If you have too many rows, you go up a hook size so that you'll have less. And if you have too few, you go down a hook size. And you continue to do that until you get the right number of stitches within the measurement. So this is just going to be a demonstration from start to finish, how I check gauge, what I do, what the steps are, including washing and drying instructions for that yarn, figuring that out, taking that into consideration. And how I go up and down hook sizes to figure out the exact number of stitches within the measurement and get that. I give some tips and some helpful insight on things to think about when you're checking gauge. And I just go start to finish until I determine the right hook size for this project. So I hope it's helpful. I'm going to deep dive some more into gauge in upcoming videos as well. So check back again, and hopefully I can answer all your questions and make it much easier to understand for you. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments and I will get to them as soon as I can. All right, let's get started on the demonstration. Today we're going to be checking gauge for the Vinnie sweater. It's a super simple top-down sweater pattern that uses the half double crochet stitch pretty much throughout the entire sweater. So I've got the first page of my pattern here. It shows that we need Swish DK yarn and an H 5mm crochet hook, which is what I have here. That's what I'm going to start with, the hook that it tells me to in the pattern, that they used in the pattern. Then it says our gauge is 14 half double crochet by 14 rows equals 4 inches. So that is what we want to accomplish. We want 14 stitches and 14 rows to equal 4 inches, both across and height wise. So I'm going to go ahead and move this and get close up for you. And I'm going to take my Swish. Swish is the yarn I have and the yarn that I am checking my gauge with. Now the thing about Swatch is it is a 100% fine superwash merino wool. So I'm going to take note of that as I'm checking my gauge. It says we can machine wash cold and tumble dry low. So just something to take note of when you are looking at your yarn and the yarn you're going to use for your project. So for my crochet gauge swatch for this pattern, I am going to do 20 stitches. It says 14 stitches in 4 inches. So I am going to do a little bit more than that. So I'm going to do 20 stitches and 20 rows. If it's less than 20 stitches, my gauge is less than 20 stitches, that's what I usually do. I just do a 20 stitches by 20 rows. If it's more than 20 stitches, I would add 10 stitches or so, just to give you time to work it up, make it big enough to where you can check different spots throughout and check your tension, all that kind of stuff. So, but for this one, since it's 14, I'm going to do 20. So I'm going to chain 21 to add that turning chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 18, 21. All right. Then I'm going to work into my second chain from the hook and do 1/2 double crochet in each stitch across. All right, I've completed my stitches. I'm going to double check and make sure it's 20 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. So I've got 20 half double crochet. So now I am going to chain 1, turn, and do 1/2 double crochet in each stitch across. And I'm going to do that for 20 rows. So I'll do that now off camera, and I'll come back when my swatch is completed. All right, I've completed my swatch. I have 20 stitches and 20 rows, and I'm ready to measure. So I'm going to measure my stitches first. I'm going to use this bar right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm about 16 stitches across. Let's try here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I'm right at 16, so I'm a little bit big. I'm too many stitches. And then my rows, we are at, let's get right on 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I'm getting about 16 stitches and 12 rows. So I have too many stitches, but not enough rows. So when I'm doing that, I need to think about width before height. So I'm going to need to go up a hook size to try to get 14 stitches in 4 inches. But what I want to do is I want to take these washing instructions and I want to wash this swatch first, because if I wash this and it gets bigger and it ends up only being 14 stitches in the rows and it expands, then that will work. But it also says to tumble dry low. So I want to test that out as well to see what happens in the dryer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fasten off this swatch, and I am going to first block it and see what it measures, and then put it in the dryer to see what happens. Does it shrink up? Does it stay the same after it's been washed? I want to know what it'll do when I wash this piece, because when I wash my sweater, I don't want it, if it expands and I didn't know it because I didn't test it, then it's not going to fit after I wash it. So that is why I like to wash my my gauge swatches, to see where they're at and to see the blocked gauge for that. But like I said, I also like to follow the washing instructions, which also includes tumble drying. If it says to lay flat to dry, you would just block it and lay flat and measure it. But since it's able to go in the dryer, unless I plan to do just lay it flat to dry, then I need to know what it is blocked and after that and lay flat to dry. But if I plan to tumble dry it, I need to know what it does. Does it shrink or whatnot? So I'm going to test both. I'm going to block it, measure it, laid flat, and then I'm going to throw it in the dryer and measure it again afterwards, and we'll see what happens. All right, for blocking it, I've got a small bottle of cool water that I'm going to use, and I usually put a little drop of wool wash in it, but I could not find my wool wash, so this is just water. I've got a foam board to pin it down on, got some pins, and I have a towel to get it nice and dry. So I'm going to stick it in there. And if you know you're going to use the washing machine, you could just wash it like in the washing machine to really know how it holds up in the wash. I would actually kind of recommend that if you for sure want to be able to wash it in the washing machine. But for the sake of this video, we are going to block it. And I'm just going to leave it in there for a few minutes. All right, it's been soaked for a few minutes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it out. I'm not going to wring it, but I am going to just give it a good squeeze. To get any excess water out. And then I'm going to put it in the towel and roll up the towel just to get all the extra water out. Just give it a good squeeze. Put that over there so I don't spill it. All right, so it's ready to be pinned down. Let's see, this is the bottom. And I'm just going to try to get it even so that I can get a good idea of what it's going to be. All right, so it's pretty dry, or it's just damp, and lay it flat and pinned out. So now let me measure again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So now it is a little bit bigger. It grew from 16 to 13 stitches, I think. Let's check again. Put it right on the edge of that stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13. So yeah, like 13 and a half. So it's really, really close. Let's check the rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 stitches by 13 rows. So we're really close, but we're a little bit too big. So laid flat, it's very, very close, but not quite there. Now, what we could do, this is an H5 millimeter. We could try it with an eye hook, or let's see what it does in the dryer and decide from there. So I'm going to unpin it, and I'm going to go put this in the dryer. I'm going to put it on low heat for about 20 minutes just to see what it does. And once it's pretty dry, I'll come back and we'll remeasure. All right, I've got my swatch dried. It's my ends are a little frizzy. I didn't weave those in, but other than that, it's held up really nice, and it's even softer than it was before, which is super cool. Really nice yarn for sweaters. So let's see what happened with the dryer. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So we're at 16 half double crochet stitches again. So we are right back where we started. It shrunk right back up to the original size. So let's check rows. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Whoops, don't want to move. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we're right at 14. I think I may have moved that a little. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 13, 14, 13 and a half, 14. So when we are working, in this case, a top-down sweater, the width, the number of stitches is going to be more important than the number of rows. So if our gauge is not exact with the number of rows, we can adjust that very easily by adding or taking away however, rounds when we're working our sweater. The stitches, the number of stitches across is what's most important. So what we've gathered by working the swatch, washing it and drying it, is that with an H hook, I get 16 stitches in 4 inches. I need 14 stitches. So I need to go up a hook size for that from this. When I wash it, it does expand, but when I dry it, it dries right back to the size that it was. So I'm going to take the easy way, and I'm going to say, I'm going to wash and dry it in the machine. So knowing that it goes back to the same number of stitches when it's dried, I'm going to go up a hook size and check again. So I'm going to put this swatch aside. You can do what you want with it, but I'm going to use new yarn to create a new swatch with the hook size up. So I've got an H 5mm. I'm going to go up to an I hook. So I'm going to grab that hook and make another swatch, and we'll check it then. All right, I haven't completed an entire swatch for this one, but I did go up to an I hook, and it was still running about 15 stitches in 4 inches. So then I went ahead and went up to the J hook, and I've done a few rows, and I'm getting exactly 14 stitches in 4 inches. So since I know that the yarn will shrink back in the wash, I don't need to go wash. Like it shrinks back to the original size. I don't need to go wash it again and all that. So I'm good. I know that I need to use my J hook and wash and dry it when I wash my garment. So I am ready to get started. I have completed my gauge. Tip that I had recently heard about was to take a picture of the hook size you're using with the yarn or the project that you're using so that you won't forget the hook size. But I also want to note that this is my pattern that released in, I think, 2022. And I used an H hook, and I have to go up to a J hook, and I'm using the exact same yarn. So that's why it's important to always check gauge, even if you've already done a project before, even if you're using the exact same yarn. Always check gauge. You never know how much your tension will change. If the yarn has changed, all kinds of factors can contribute to the stitches being different, the gauge coming out differently. So always check your gauge. I hope that was helpful for how to check your gauge, what to do to determine whether, with your washing instructions, how that affects it and stuff like that. And if you need to go up or down a hook size. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I'm happy to help. I hope you'll give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.